Microsoft has been in hot water lately. 15,000 laid off, multiple games canceled, and entire studios shut down. Their franchise games have taken a hit in the past decade. Their console sales are lagging behind PlayStation, and their willingness to bet it all on Game Pass is downright concerning. How did it get to this point? How did Xbox go from dominating the gaming market with the 360 to becoming a mere afterthought, focused on pushing a subscription service? This video covers how Microsoft destroyed Xbox. Fresh off the release of the PlayStation 2, Microsoft grew weary of the implications. One developer even called the PS2 a Trojan horse, meant to get into the home as a game machine and then become the gateway for all home entertainment. With such a machine, no one would need a personal computer in the home. With this in mind, Microsoft needed an answer to the PS2. The first key component of the original Xbox was not a specific CPU or GPU, but rather a piece of software. DirectX. I'm sure you've heard of this if you own a gaming PC, but for those who don't know, it was created in 1995 and enabled the PC to take advantage of the enormous boosts in 3D graphics and keep up with consoles such as the Sony PlayStation. Were it not for DirectX, Microsoft would have had no foundation at all to build a software-based games business. But this wasn't enough. Microsoft not only needed software, but also hardware to break into the gaming space. Microsoft's fate lay in the hands of four men: Kevin Backus, Seamus Blackley, Otto Burks, and Ted Hayes, who were later recognized as the founders of the Xbox. The four pushed for the development of a Microsoft console using DirectX technology as its foundation. Along with this, a key priority was to streamline the game development process. Backus and Blackley wanted a machine that met the needs of game developers who had always had hardware shoved down their throats. This project would later be codenamed Midway, a reference to the Battle of Midway where the Americans defeated the Japanese in a pivotal moment in World War II, thus showcasing Microsoft's focus on beating Sony. And on March 10, 2000, attendees of the San Jose Game Developer Conference witnessed the formation of a new faction in the console war. The original prototype was a fake box featuring a literal X-shaped enclosure, which looks ridiculous in hindsight but spoke of the brand's desire to differentiate itself. But there was something far more important than the way the console looked. It was the games. Microsoft successfully pitched the Xbox to game devs largely thanks to its similar hardware to PCs, making the development of Xbox games far simpler compared to other consoles. One of these games went by the name of Halo. In June of 2000, Microsoft made one of its most important acquisitions in the company's history. Bungie was a Chicago-based game studio consisting of 15 people. Just a year prior, at the 1999 Macworld Conference and Expo, they announced a new sci-fi game by the name of Halo. Originally intended to be a Mac OS and Windows release, this would fall through thanks to a glitch in one of Bungie's games, Myth 2 Soulblighter. Ahead of the game's release and after already producing 200,000 copies, the company found a glitch that erased the directory it was installed to. This mishap cost Bungie $800,000, and for a company in financial straits, they needed extra funding if they had any hope of shipping Halo. Then Executive Vice President Peter Tampt reached out to Ed Fries, the head of Microsoft Game Studios, in hopes of a possible acquisition. Come June 19, 2000, the two came to an agreement and Microsoft acquired Bungie. As a result, both the studio and its new IP were exclusive to Microsoft. From this point on, one could say the rest was history. The Xbox released on November 15, 2001 and experienced a record-breaking US launch, selling 1.5 million units in the process. The IP they bought turned into Halo Combat Evolved, a now legendary game that popularized the first-person shooter genre on consoles, single-handedly convincing people to buy the Xbox. Throughout its lifespan, the Xbox sold 24 million units worldwide, 16 million of which were domestic. Despite this shocking success, the Xbox ultimately cost the company $4 billion. In actuality, this loss can be seen as an investment in the entertainment space, an investment that paid off in the coming years. $4 billion later, Microsoft found itself in a similar spot. A new console needed to be made. This time, however, Microsoft beat Sony to the punch. Development for the Xbox 360 started in 2003, and after 2 years, Microsoft was ready for launch. On November 22, 2005, Xbox ushered in the 7th generation with the release of the Xbox 360. Unlike the first Xbox, Microsoft was able to release their new console a whole year before the release of the PS3, which came out on November 11th of 2006. Not only did the Xbox 360 hit the market first, but it was $200 cheaper than the PS3, which retailed for $599. This can be explained by Sony's attempt to corner the Blu-ray market, and during this time, Blu-ray technology was not cheap. Furthermore, Xbox prioritized what gamers wanted: online play as opposed to a DVD player. Xbox Live as a Service provided the best online gameplay experience with features like achievements, friends, and the party system. In comparison, Sony's PSN was lackluster due to its focus on branding the PS3 as an entertainment hub, as opposed to a gaming hub. When you take all of these into consideration, the 360's early launch, cheaper price, and better online service, then it becomes clear which console your average gamer preferred. To make things worse for Sony, the 360 was just easier to make games for, and because of that, it had better third-party games. This meant that the 360 version was often the objectively better version of the game, as these ports had better frame rates and overall better stability. One need only look at the difference between the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions of Bethesda games such as Fallout 3 and Skyrim. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for the 360. To release before the PS3, certain corners were cut in production. Early production units had obscenely high defective rates, with claims of 68%. In 2009, Game Informer even surveyed almost 5,000 readers and found that the Xbox 360 failure rate has climbed to a shocking 54.2%. And now the infamous Red Ring of Death wreaked havoc across millions of consoles, with some sources suggesting more than 50% of Xbox 360s experienced the doom of the Red Ring. Microsoft's response was to extend their warranty to 3 years and repair and replace every console affected. This move displayed a clear commitment to the consumer in an effort to right their wrongs. What they didn't anticipate was that repairing and replacing all the affected consoles would add up to $1 billion from a cost standpoint. Even with all the technical controversies, the Xbox 360 was selling a total of 46 million units in the US alone, doubling the PS3's 23 million. And it showed. I remember growing up wanting an Xbox solely because all of my friends had one. I felt like the black sheep in the friend group because I played on my brother's PS3. And to this day, some consider the 360's reign as the golden age of gaming. But what came next was a rude awakening. After the success of the 360, it only made sense that fans and gamers alike were excited to see Microsoft's next console. I remember seeing ridiculous renders of what the fan-named Xbox 720 would look like, usually resembling some alien technology far too advanced for humanity to even create. And there's also this now iconic video showcasing different mock-ups of not just the Xbox, but future Nintendo and PlayStation consoles. The hype for the next Xbox was unreal, and Microsoft was eager to respond. Well, we all know how this went down. In the city of Redmond in the state of Washington, the entire trajectory of the Xbox brand was at stake. On May 21st, 2013, Xbox as we know it would forever change. Gamers and games media watched as Don Matrix slowly chipped away at the audience's excitement. Fans expected the new gaming console to be just that, a gaming console. It wouldn't take long for people to notice that Microsoft had different plans. From the get-go, it was clear that the Xbox One was focused on
TV and movies, TV, Xbox, watch TV, Xbox, go home.
Microsoft's emphasis on new entertainment features left a bad taste in the mouths of gamers, the core audience of Xbox users. This complete lack of awareness regarding their audience only became more apparent with the announcement of an always online connection, restrictions concerning game sharing, and even used games. All of these were met with immense backlash and resulted in the easiest layup for Sony.
This is how you share your games on PS4. Thanks.
Another glaring issue was the mandatory inclusion of the Kinect, a piece of hardware primarily targeted at a casual audience. This pairing meant that the Xbox One released at $499, $100 more expensive than what the PS4 would launch at. Such missteps were only made worse thanks to out-of-touch executives. Then creative director of Microsoft Game Studio Adam Orth had this to say about the always online fiasco. "Sorry, I don't get the drama around having an always on console. Every device now is always on. That's the world we live in. Punctuating this message with #deal with it. He left Xbox a few days later. Suffice it to say, the Xbox One did not land well with consumers. A month after the initial reveal, Xbox held another press conference at E3. This announcement did far better in showcasing what people cared about, the games. But it was too little, too late. To add insult to injury, Sony's E3 conference that very same week essentially dunked on Microsoft and all their missteps, explicitly illustrating how all the controversial aspects of the Xbox One were nowhere to be found on the PS4. Xbox tried to backtrack some of their anti-consumer policies, such as rolling back the always online policies mere 9 days after E3, but the damage had already been done. These disastrous 2 months essentially killed the Xbox One before it even released, and it showed. There was far more hype and general goodwill toward the PS4. By the end of the 8th generation, the Xbox One was outsold by the PS4 2-1. The Microsoft console sold 58 million units, and Sony's sold 117 million. Such a difference can also be explained by the quality of exclusives throughout the two's lifespan. PlayStation had titles like Bloodborne, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, The Last of Us, and the list goes on. Many of these games could be considered Game of the Year contenders as well. Whereas Xbox had titles like Halo 5, Gears of War, Forza, Sunset Overdrive, and Sea of Thieves. While there were some good games, none of them had the same pull or quality as a PS4 exclusive. This is especially alarming considering people have just started to switch over to digital libraries. As one Reddit user says, the rise of digital games locked everyone into whichever console they picked during that generation. Some may say that the Switch was able to navigate this after the disastrous failure of the Wii U, but the Switch had something the Xbox One didn't: good exclusives. People buy Nintendo consoles because they're the only place where you can play Mario games, Super Smash Bros., Legend of Zelda, etc. People are willing to buy consoles just for the games alone, but people aren't willing to buy an Xbox One to play Sunset Overdrive. Looking back, it felt obvious that this is how things would pan out, and I for the life of me don't understand how Microsoft made the same mistakes that the PS3 did. The same mistakes that made their Xbox 360 the king of an entire generation. Both the PS3 and Xbox One were 1, more expensive on release, and 2, focus on entertainment as opposed to gaming. And can we talk about the naming convention? Who thought Xbox One would be a good name for the third console in the Xbox lineup? I know they leaned with One because of the all-in-one branding, but come on, the 720 was right there for you to use. You would think that they'd learn from these mistakes, but things only got worse. I think it's worth opening with this quote from the head of Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose with the Xbox One. This quote tells you everything you need to know about how Xbox lost its grip on the gaming industry. I think it's just funny because people buy your console to play your games. Why buy an Xbox Series S or X? Horrible names, by the way, when you can play the same game on your PC or maybe even your PlayStation now. Games are everything for a gaming console, and it's insane that I even have to say that. It's even more shocking because this is exactly how Xbox became a household name in the first place. A large part of the first Xbox's success was due to it being the only place where you could play Halo, and the same can be said about the 360 with Halo 3 and Gears of War. And ever since the release of the Xbox One, Microsoft hasn't been able to have a consistent stream of quality exclusives like Sony. They've mistreated and mismanaged their main franchise Halo into near obscurity. As of July 7th, 2025, Halo Infinite has a 24-hour peak of 3,500 players, a far cry from the frenzy surrounding prior Halo releases. And this game is free. Microsoft's blockbuster purchase of Bethesda for $7.5 billion is seeing lackluster returns, largely due to the forgettable Starfield, which is supposed to be a key Xbox exclusive. Avowed, another Xbox Windows exclusive, while not necessarily a bad game, was overshadowed by the likes of Baldur's Gate 3 and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. They made Arcane Studios, a developer known for immersive sims, create a live service looter shooter. Remember the last time a studio known for single-player games was forced to do the same? Yeah, how'd that turn out? Not great. Microsoft's mismanagement of its studios has again reared its ugly head with recent layoffs. On July 2nd, more than 9,000 employees were laid off across various Microsoft departments, including the Xbox division. The cutbacks come as Microsoft continues to invest huge amounts of money in data centers, specialized computer chips, and other infrastructure needed to advance its AI ambitions, with costs amounting to $80 billion for additional AI infrastructure. These layoffs meant certain games in entire game studios needed to be shut down. The Initiative, the studio behind the Perfect Dark reboot, was shut down after 7 years of development. Turn 10, the studio behind Forza, laid off 120 people, nearly 50% of their staff. 10% of King, the developers behind Candy Crush, are gone. Even a Call of Duty developer, Raven Software, suffered layoffs. If Call of Duty isn't safe, then who is? Rare's action-adventure game Everwild has been cancelled. A new ZeniMax IP was also cancelled. Blizzard's survival game, codename Odyssey, was scrapped. And as for entire studios, Arcane Austin, Roundhouse Studios, and AlphaDog Games have been closed down. Tango Gameworks, the developers behind The Evil Within, are nearly lost forever. This only illustrates Microsoft's reliance on its age-old playbook. Buy up the competition, ruin the companies and the people inside, and eventually shut them down. These layoffs are merely the latest of a string of workforce reductions dating back to 2023. This year alone, more than 15,000 employees have lost their jobs, only made more confusing since Microsoft just finished one of its best quarters ever. In an internal memo, Phil Spencer said this: "Our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger. The success we're seeing currently is based on tough decisions we made previously. We will protect what is thriving and concentrate effort on areas with the greatest potential while delivering on the expectations the company has for our business," only adding salt to the wound for those laid off. In a now deleted LinkedIn post, Xbox producer Matt Turnbull urged those who were laid off to use AI in their newfound job search, which I'm sure is exactly what they wanted to hear. With multiple studios slimming down, the sustainability of the Xbox Game Pass has been put in question. Rafael Colantonio, ex-founder of Arcane Studios, said this in response to the layoffs: "I think Game Pass is an unsustainable model that has been increasingly damaging the industry for a decade, subsidized by Microsoft's infinite money. But at some point, reality has to hit. I don't think Game Pass can coexist with other models. They'll either kill everyone or give up." The director of publishing from Larian Studios, the makers of Baldur's Gate 3, had this to say: "What happens when all that money runs out is the most vocal concern in my network, and one of the main economic reasons people I know haven't shifted to its business model. The infinite money thing never made any sense." These concerns show that while the Game Pass is a great deal for consumers, it ultimately reduces the total number of game sales. I mean, if it's such a good deal, why would Xbox owners and PC gamers buy any of Microsoft's games when it's gonna be on Game Pass anyways? As a gaming fan, it saddens me to see a household name like Xbox diminished to essentially being a third-party developer. This lack of competition worries me and makes me wonder how Sony will take advantage of consumers, what corners they will cut, and how greedy they will get. Xbox started with a desire to deliver the greatest gaming experience there was. Now all that's left is a shell of what we once loved. Because no matter how much money you throw at the problem, you can't buy loyalty, passion, or identity. And that's what Xbox lost. So where does Xbox go from here? Can Microsoft rebuild what they lost, or has the Game Pass gamble turned into a trap they can't escape from? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.